He's a busy man. Chris Mad Dog Russo, host of Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM, Channel 82, host of High Heat on MLB Network, and occasionally making cameos with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take. I listened to the show yesterday. Great job in the afternoon with your tributes to Willie Mays. Some great stories there. I was kind of surprised, and you even said this, that this wasn't a bigger deal with other shows, other networks. Why do you think that is, Chris?
Yeah, Danny, I was a little surprised because I think in a lot of ways, you and I are the two who do more baseball than anybody else. You love baseball. You know, you and I are about the same age. You might be a little older, Dan, but we do love the baseball. We do talk. You and I love to talk. You know, we follow it and everything else. So I was a little surprised that it didn't get more. Now, it got a lot of attention today. New York Times had a big obit on it. You know, it's right up my alley, as you know, because, you know, I'm a Giant fan anyway. They got this Rick Wood game the night, but I was a little surprised. I know none of our guys did it at our show. I mean, you know, they're younger hosts.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out there and they're going to break. They didn't see Willie play, you know. So from that standpoint, and I know I have a child, 22 years old, who just got a job in West Palm Beach, ESPN West Palm, and he's not on the air yet. He's in Europe. And I told myself, geez, if he was on the air tomorrow and Willie died, then he wouldn't know what to say. Yep. Gee, I've heard of him, but I mean, so I just think it's probably an age thing. I think you and I are probably the only ones, radio-wise, nationally, who could do it and do it properly. If you're going to do it, you got to do it properly. You know, and you and I can do that. And so I figured, what the hell? It's and I would do it anyway. But it's a Wednesday. The NBA season's over. Nobody's going to call me on the Yankees or Orioles. You know, the NHL, there's a couple of days off. They're not going to go crazy on Edmonton. And no matter how good McDavid is with Florida, it's a perfect time to do it. And if you can get the right guys, they're going to add something to it. So there you go. I think probably the age.
I think having seen these players, that really helps, because when Jerry West died, having first seen him in person when I was 12 years of age, getting his autograph in Cincinnati.
Wow.
I went to Cincinnati Royals versus the Lakers, and I just remember my dad told me that's how you play basketball. But my dad took me to a spring training game in Arizona in Scottsdale to see Willie Mays and the Giants, and he said, watch him, because nobody plays baseball like him. So I had, my dad gave me a good heads up to follow certain players, and I didn't realize it at the time until then you have that kind of epiphany and you go, oh, okay. And Willie Mays was different than anybody who'd ever played the game.
And I think there's a lot of similarities there. Fundamentally, the way they played it between West and Willie. I do think there's a lot of it, but Willie had so much flair, effervescence. You know, my father was a DiMaggio fan, and he's a Yankee fan. So I didn't get that, grow up with the Giants and grew up with the Yankees. Yeah. So he probably didn't appreciate Mays as much as he probably should have. And Mike Francesa, my old radio partner, loved Mantle. So he probably didn't appreciate Mays as much as he should have. I remember, Dan, I became a huge Giant fan in the late 60s, 68, and Mays was not Mays. You know, he was 37 years old. So I did not see Mays necessarily in his prime. I did see McCovey, who I loved, and I love Bobby Bonds. But Mays is the reason why I was a Giant fan. And I've read everything in the last 3 days. I've read the 2 books on him. We've seen all the highlights. You and I can break down that catch in 54 against Vic Wertz until the cows come home. The catch that he made against the Reds, you saw it on YouTube out in right center field. Bobby Tolan crashing the wall. I mean, those plays, those are iconic plays and again, I didn't really think about it too much until the last few years. He probably, pound for pound, I think you'd agree, you're a good historian, pound for pound, let's leave Ruth out of it. Pound for pound, maybe he is the best player of all time. I think DiMaggio's close because he played center field too. Willie isn't the best hitter. Williams, Joe D, Aaron, Musial. I don't think he's the best hitter, but if you combine the speed, running the bases, defense in the outfield, all those other ingredients that Williams didn't do well, Musial didn't do well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Ruth was in right field. Garrick was a lumbering first baseman. If you put that in the equation, pound for pound, maybe you say he's the best of all time.
The Celtics win the title, and I'm trying to figure out. We love to do this. Like, where do they rank in history? Like, they had an incredible season, start to finish, and they're run through the playoffs. But do you look at them and say this is like an all-time great team that we saw this year in Boston?
And no, I don't look at that yet right now. I didn't look that way last year with Denver either. Porzingis definitely adds something. They have two bona fide, no question about it, Hall of Famers, of course, and Brown and Tatum, Porzingis, Horford, Drew Holiday. I mean, they got a lot of good players. I think you got to do it more. I mean, is this team as good as the 82-83 Sixers? Not in my eyes. Mm-mm. Is this team as good as the 86 Celtics? Not in my eyes. Is this team as good as those Laker teams with Magic? Not in my eyes. Is this team as good as the 66, 67 Sixers with Chet Walker and Luke Jackson and Billy C and Wilt, Hal Greer? Not in my eyes. So I don't know if I'm going to put them, and not as good as the 96 Bulls. So, or even the Warriors with Durant, Curry, Thompson, and Draymond Green, the two they won. So I wouldn't put them on that level. But it's a hell of a team. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, Danny. I mean, they had Porzingis, 2 games? I mean, in the postseason, they can be a little quirky. They should have lost game 1 to Indiana. We all know that. Lost a couple home games to Cleveland and Miami. A couple of teams are banged up. Not that it would have made any difference in, the Cavaliers and no Butler for Miami. But, I mean, they play excellent defense. And here's what they do well, Dan. You're the basketball. You played it. You love it. They can score at every position. Tatum scores. They make threes. Derek White scores. Horford makes a 3. Porzingis scores. Every place on the court, you got to defend. That's hard sometimes to find teams that have those 5 guys. It's a hell of a team. Let's see them do it again. Maybe they will.
He's Mad Dog Russo, host of Mad Dog Unleashed on SiriusXM. High Heat on MLB Network and contributes to ESPN's First Take. We've spent a little while in the first hour talking about Bronny James, and he's the only interesting part of the draft. And the fact that Rich Paul said, hey, if I thought it meant that LeBron was going to stay with the Lakers, I would force the Lakers to draft Bronny at 17, which I found a strange comment that who is running the Lakers that Rich Paul is going to say, you draft Bronny, and then LeBron's going to stay here. And then I started to wonder, could Bronny be drafted by Dallas? And then LeBron maybe reunite with Kyrie? Like, if he's a free agent, could you see maybe a scenario where, and the GM of the Mavs, according to Rich Paul, is like an uncle to Bronny James. So that team just played for a title. The Lakers aren't going to be playing for a title probably in the rest of LeBron's career. And what's this come down to? Play with your son and maybe win another title.
Listen, I don't think Bronny James is that good. I mean, He's
not. But if you get Dad,
he scored 4 points a game at USC. I mean, geez. I mean, he'd be on the bench. He wouldn't even play at UConn. So he needs another year of college basketball. That's the first thing. And then if you bring him in and you use a first-round pick on him, you're going to hurt your team that way. And then you got to deal with, you're going to play him. You sit him on the bench, and then you bring LeBron in, and then who's running the team? I think it's a mess.
But you're going to have that with the Lakers, Chris. You're going to use a second-round pick on him.
They're going to use a second-round pick.
Yes.
They're going to use a second-round pick. And let's be honest, Danny, on the Lakers. The Lakers haven't exactly distinguished themselves here in the last couple of weeks. They were very curt with the West thing. That's because Jeannie Buss doesn't like the idea that Jerry left the team because the owner, Jerry Buss, wouldn't pay him. He wanted to be paid more than the top 10 GMs, and that wouldn't occur. So then 2 years ago, she does a podcast, and Jerry West is not in the top 5 in the history of the Lakers. Yeah. What, are you kidding me? He brought basketball to L.A., and then they handled Hurley, and then they only offered him 6 years, $70 million. What? You want Danny Hurley that badly, and you're going to make him the 6th highest paid coach in the league? That's not going to get his attention. That was puzzling. Now you want to bring JJ in, and JJ's doing podcasts with LeBron? That's odd. I mean, the Lakers have not exactly had They have not had a stellar stretch here. But you're right. You think they're going to draft him with the second round, and then he stays, and then all of a sudden you're going to put the coach in an impossible spot because LeBron's going to want the kid on the floor at times. You got to placate LeBron. Kid's not ready to play in the NBA. That whole thing's a mess, Danny.
But you're going to put him probably on a G League team, and then you're going to yo-yo him. You're going to bring him up, nationally televised game. LeBron gets it just feels like he's going to be like a guest who comes over for dinner and then leaves. And maybe that's how you placate LeBron, and he's able to be around his son, and maybe there's development. I'm with you. He should be staying in college one more year, but the clock is ticking on his dad's career.
Yeah, it's a very dicey situation. I think that if I was running a team and I knew Bronny wasn't going to be a great NBA player, which he's not going to be, I wouldn't want to have to deal with this where I got to worry about the father being one of the all-timers and, great player. We need him. And I got Bronny. Do I annoy the father by, how about if the father says, I want Bronny on the team right now. I want him playing 15 minutes a night. What are you supposed to do? It's LeBron. Yeah. It's a very, it's not healthy for your franchise. I think it's very messy. And I think you're right. I think the Lakers are probably going to be the team that has to deal with it because, they want to play. It's the Lakers. LeBron's on the team as it is. He runs the ball club. And then you're bringing a coach in, and JJ is going to be a good coach, but he's got no experience dealing with this nonsense. Plus, him and LeBron are tight. So you got to deal with that. After you didn't get Hurley, it's very messy. And the Lakers are an older team.
I know.
Who got knocked out in the first round. It's a very dicey situation with the Lakers. It really is. It's dicey.
How do you know when you've gotten under Stephen A's skin on First Take?
If I get into something with the NBA historically, that's what gets him annoyed. When he threw a bone at me yesterday with the top 5 duos of all time when he brought in, of course, Cousy and Sam Jones. And I think he did that for me, but he left Weston Goodrich out the year that was, they went 39 in a row. They were 69 wins and they killed the teams in the postseason. Both were unbelievable. And I think he got a little annoyed. Steve, wait, Weston Goodrich? What's the matter? Because it indicates that he didn't realize how good Weston Goodrich were. He loves it, though. He loves it. Yesterday I had some fun with him when he's walking into the gym with these beautiful suits on and, like he's about to be a player and scoring 35 a ball game. He loves it when you have fun with that. But I think when I have fun playing the historian and I go to the old NBA days, I think that's when he might get a little ticked.
Yeah, but
I'm the NBA guy.
You upset JJ Redick when you would do that.
Oh, terribly. And I think that bothers Stevie A little bit. But it's fun. I have fun in there, and I don't try to take it too seriously. I have some laughs. I try to stay away from you and I, try to stay away from those topics that might get you in a little trouble, and I try to just basically do it from a sports standpoint.
Great to talk to you.
Oh, we love you, Danny. You're the best,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM. Afternoons on Channel 82. Also High Heat on MLB and First Take.